Rheumatoid arthritis, unfortunately, is becoming something that we see pretty regularly. And it's not just in the older population, younger and younger people are being diagnosed with it now as well. So I want to make this video and give you some insight into the testing for rheumatoid arthritis and what's actually going on there. And this actually is very applicable to lots of chronic health issues in the sense of just because you see it presented very formally and very officially doesn't always mean that it's definitive proof that something's going on in the body. And why, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. If you just want to heal, when I work with clients and they want to share their lab work and they're dealing with an autoimmune or a chronic gut issue or any chronic health issue and they want to share their blood work, I tell them all the same thing. Like, it's not really going to change what we need to do at the end of the day. I'm happy to take a look at it for you. But there's a reason why I don't order labs for my chronic health clients anymore. I don't need to see them. It doesn't matter, which I know sounds crazy. If you would have told me that was the case 10 years ago, I would have thought that was crazy too. But thankfully, there's a much more direct route to healing and reversing these chronic health issues. And you can stop playing all the guessing games with tests, which is really funny because the people who like to order tests will tell you, like, we can't guess, we have to test. But it turns out those tests are just guessing games. So that being said, let's dive in here. So if you have, if you think you might have rheumatoid arthritis, you probably have some joint pain, usually the smaller joints, the wrists, is a very common one, fingers, can even be on the lower body as well. You might have stiffness, especially that morning stiffness that kind of gets better as you go throughout the day. You could start to have some tingling numbness. You could have some fluid buildup. You could have some very swollen joints. You could also have flu-type symptoms. You could even have nerve palpitations, heart palpitations, or nerve pain. And we'll talk more about why so many symptoms can exist under that rheumatoid arthritis umbrella. But let's say you're dealing with these for quite a while, and maybe you've had massage, you've done chiropractic, you've tried some acupuncture, some other things, and it's just really not getting better or going away. At some point, when you visit a medical professional, they're probably going to explore the idea of putting that rheumatoid arthritis label on you, right? And if you're someone who just wants some validation of your symptoms, that can feel nice for a moment, but that label doesn't do anything to tell us what the reason why is that you have rheumatoid arthritis, right? And I think we all know that, that's the situation when we get a diagnosis like that. It's you walk in, you tell them, I have pain. And okay, your doctor says, okay, well, you have pain, but they tell it to you with a different term or a different label. It's like, okay, great. What do we do now? And if you're watching this, I assume you don't want to rely on biologics, immunosuppressants the rest of your life. So that's why we're doing this here. All right. So when you go in and they want to explore, like, does this person have rheumatoid arthritis? They're probably going to look at blood work. And these are going to be the most common lab work that they're going to run on this. So they might run what's called a rheumatoid factor, which looks for antibodies. This test, it's just unreliable. It might pick up that somebody does have a positive rheumatoid factor and they have none of these symptoms whatsoever, none at all, and they feel great. Vice versa, somebody could truly have what is known as rheumatoid arthritis and this not pick it up. So that's kind of the point that we're going to get to with all these tests. They're very unreliable. And, your best case, like with this anti-CCP and these others, is it's going to confirm that you have inflammation in your body. Great. Okay, cool. Didn't really need a test to tell us that, but, there we go. So like an anti-CCP test, it's another antibody test. It's a little more reliable than the rheumatoid factor, but it's still just picking up on general inflammation. And inflammation is such an important concept because your body just does not go into berserk mode and just start producing unlimited inflammation for absolutely no reason. It's nonsense. That whole idea is such. I mean, from people who sell cures, it's a beautiful way to convince you that there's nothing you can do. And well, hey, your body is the problem. It's not because I don't know what I'm doing. It's your body's the problem. So here's some drugs. Good luck with that. But that's what these tests are picking up on. ESR, it's just going to show you if you have high levels of inflammation. It cannot tell you where that inflammation is coming from. So people without those RA symptoms, they can test positive for ESR. C-reactive protein, CRP, that can relate. That can show if there's inflammation in the body or not. So you could have a high CRP. It could just be coming showing positive because you're obese, right? So, okay. So let's break down this inflammation part real quick, because inflammation, like I said, doesn't just happen for no reason. There's always a cause, and it's one of two causes. It's either you had a physical injury, so you had a trauma, like you had a broken bone, or you got an open wound, a cut, or a sports injury, something like that. That will produce inflammation for a certain amount of time until that problem is dealt with and recovered, right? That's one source of inflammation. The only other way that your body is going to produce inflammation, your immune system is going to go into that inflammation mode, is if it is doing its job. Can you believe it? Your body is not faulty. Your immune system is brilliant. It's your best friend. It is helping you out. Your immune system is fighting off a pathogen, such as a chronic low-grade viral infection or maybe a bacteria. That's where this chronic inflammation comes from. Does that make sense? And so, okay, if we know that, when we don't, if we start to understand what actually can be behind rheumatoid arthritis and many other what are called autoimmune diseases, and you start to learn about Epstein-Barr, and how the immune system is always working to protect you against it, then, okay, of course there's inflammation. Your immune system's trying to put out the fire for you. It's trying to go after the root cause. So none of these tests, they don't lead anyone to any useful conclusion that's going to lead them down a true path of healing, right? It's crazy when you realize this, but that's the reality. So if you want to look at your RA symptoms in a useful way, it's realizing wow, my body is under attack by a chronic low-grade viral infection, which unfortunately is highly common these days. It's not some rare occurrence anymore. Realizing that's what's happening, and then starting to understand the role that foods play in either putting that fire out or fueling that fire, and then learning how to implement different foods and different protocols into your daily routine that are going to tip the scales in your favor so that you are fighting off the actual root cause of these symptoms, and you know how to stop fueling the root cause of these symptoms. And again, I keep reiterating this, but it's so important that testing does not dictate what needs to happen in a case like this or where you need to go. I'm not telling anyone to not get tests, especially if you want to get tests, go for it. Work with your doc and your practitioner. But I'm just speaking from my experience with my own health issues and working with other clients, that if you want to start healing these things, you just need to get on a plan that makes sense for what you're dealing with food as quickly as possible and start to implement that. That's your way out of it. So as concrete as these tests may seem and appear, especially when they're presented to you, and oh my God, look, it's black and white, the number's right there, and look, it's red because it's so far out of the range. Okay, well, there you go. I must be rheumatoid arthritis. Sure, it could be, and a lot of times it probably is. But again, it's not some definitive thing, because it goes back to when you're trying to work with any of these chronic health issues and you don't have a clear idea of what's actually causing it, everything else you do is happenstance. Everything else is a bunch of guessing games. You're playing whack-a-mole. You're just going with whatever the best idea is with it for that time. And testing falls squarely into that category of things that feel useful. It feels constructive, like, well, let me just go get that test and like, let me just see. But at the end of the day, it does not chart you on a positive route for actually healing the root cause of this. So there you go. Rheumatoid arthritis test, not all they're presented to be. That might change one day, but for now, in the foreseeable future, they are just picking up general inflammation. So do with that information what you will. And if you want to get started actually healing this, reach out to me, send me a DM on Instagram, and we can kind of discuss what those next steps would look like. But there's a ton that you can do. You don't have to stay stuck in that cycle of test, supplement, generic diet, rinse and repeat for a lifetime that so many people do. So yeah, let's get it headed in the right direction.